It's very quiet on the Blackhawks coaching search. Is that reason for concern? How about Lukas Reichel's injury? Is that reason for concern? Lots more coming up next on CHGO Blackhawks. Happy Hump Day. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Mario Tirabassi. Sean is running the show today. Thanks for being here with us on this beautiful Chicago day. Do us a favor, hit that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you. We love you too. Make sure you're following or subscribed on your favorite app and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And I know I say that a lot and then no one does it. But we really want you to leave those 5-star reviews. It really helps. It's like hitting that like button. It's a great way to help. We got a lot to get to today. Lukas Reichel's World Championships are over after he suffered an injury during a tournament. There are coaching jobs being filled around the league, but not in Chicago. And we've got some mailbag leftovers. If we have time, we'll get to those as well. And, of course, we've got Rockford IceHogs season ending seemingly a month ago. Just haven't had a chance to get to it yet. So, Big show. Hit the like button. Let's start with the coaching search. Today on 32 Thoughts, which is, I think we can both agree, is our go-to for insider news. Elliotte Friedman updated every coaching search in the NHL with this team has interviewed this guy and this guy and this guy, and this team's hiring this guy and this guy's getting hired here. And then he said, quote, "I'll freely admit I don't have a great handle of where Chicago is right now."
Yeah.
Not a lot of news coming out about the Blackhawks coaching search. He did kind of go on to say there are some guys that I know have interviewed somewhere. I just can't confirm where. One of them was Jeff Halpern, who you've been hot on throughout this entire process. Don't know if he's interviewed with the Hawks or not. What do we make of this?
I think we make of it that Kyle Davidson runs a tight ship.
Yes.
I think you make of it, and I was kind of saying to you before the show, like, the norm really should be that no one knows your inside business. I think as from a fan perspective, people like Elliotte Friedman and Frank Saravalli and people like, Shams and Adam Schefter, they get those inside scoops and informations, and they, dig out the news before it actually happens and everything. Like, that has become part of the consumption of sports media.
100%.
And for great reason. People have this thirst for information, and it makes our jobs more fun when we have more information. But how it should run, if you're on the other side of things, if you are the GM or anything like that, you don't want people in your business or to know what's going on if you don't want them to know what's going on. And that's kind of how it's been since Kyle Davidson has taken over, is that we don't really know exactly what's happening or even hear too many whispers and murmurs and rumblings and all that until almost when things actually happen.
Right.
Like the Seth Jones trade. That happened quickly because it was Seth Jones is disgruntled, says it publicly, is open to being traded, and within a week is traded.
Yeah.
But the speculation of like who they could be talking to, what teams are interested, what could a trade package look like, that didn't really get anywhere until it was actually done. And then we come to find out after the fact they really only were talking to the Florida Panthers and made it work. The hiring of Luke Richardson, like that process was a little bit more like a longer timeline. And I think you knew Derek King wasn't really in the running, so you knew it was going to be somebody new. And it was very similar. We didn't really hear exactly who the Blackhawks had on their list, who they were talking to, all that stuff, until the team themselves were like, here is who's our candidates. And come to, find out Luke Richardson gets the job. I'm expecting it to go that way again. I think it's, as we've seen so far, like they're really outside of David Carl. There's not one candidate out there that we know definitively has interviewed with the Blackhawks. And as Elliot Friedman said, like the names that he was mentioning, he would assume are also on the list and could have or will talk with the Blackhawks. But it's not that Kyle Davidson, as some people on the social media, some people in our chat are saying, like, is that he's inactive. It's just he is much quieter when he's being active.
That's a good way to put it.
He's like Ghost Recon.
Yeah, there you go.
Tom Clancy.
Our buddy Windy City Hockey said, why did they let us know who they were interviewing last time, but not this time? So I did, before the show, I actually looked this up. They announced their GM interviews before they hired Davidson. It was Chiarelli, Matthew Darche, Jeff Greenberg, Scott Mellenby, Peter Chiarelli. These were the names that we were told. It was never, these are the guys we've interviewed for head coach. I've looked through emails. I've looked through social media. There is no list of coaches that the Hawks interviewed.
Oh, I thought
we had, I think some names got out. Because I know we interviewed, we talked to people from Montreal about Richardson. We talked to people
that was after he was hired.
No, I think we did some before.
Was it before?
But from what I have searched high and low to find any evidence of the Hawks saying we have interviewed this candidate for our job opening. I think names may have gotten out, but they're not there, which indicates that this policy of keeping things quiet, keeping things under wraps is a Kyle Davidson thing. Because until he was hired, they were very transparent about who they had interviewed. I don't see that as the case. If I'm wrong, please send us a link or show me an example. But I have looked all through my email, all through social media, everywhere I can possibly dream of, and I have not seen any sort of report saying we have interviewed XYZ for our head coaching role. So that, as far as I can tell, is a Davidson thing, and it's fine. Look, I find it funny that we have to go on social media and explain to people that the Chicago Blackhawks are an appealing job in the NHL. And if you're under the impression that free agents and coaching candidates are going to NHL.com, navigating over to the standings and saying, oh, they're at the bottom, they're bad, I'm not taking that job, you're a fool. Everyone who is interviewing for the Blackhawks job or is up for a head coaching job anywhere has done the research on the teams. They know about the prospects upcoming. They know about the reputation that the Blackhawks have in terms of facilities, nutrition, the way the families are treated, all those sort of perks that come with being the Blackhawks head coach. Those are very appealing. So I don't think there's any kind of red flag here that we haven't heard any names. It's frustrating from our standpoint because I would love to be interviewing guests and building a database about coach hires, but we don't have anything aside from David Carl. That's the only guy we know for sure the Hawks talk to. So we'll see. If you're watching this show, I think it's safe to assume that you have a pretty firm grasp on what's happening late in the season at the NHL level and below the surface with juniors, college, Rockford, etc. The future of this organization is very bright. They're about to have the number 3 overall pick. They've got nothing but money to spend. They've got a great reputation with free agent players. Look at how they treated Pat Maroon. Look how they treated Alec Martinez. That resonates with guys, and that reputation spreads. Nick Foligno is a guy who has been an active recruiter that has played with a lot of guys, including several Toronto Maple Leafs. You know what I mean? So this is an appealing job. It's going to happen sooner or later. They're going to make a hire. I just don't think that because we're not hearing anything that they're not interviewing anyone. Yeah. I would say this. If the case was that they can't get anyone to agree to an interview or no one's interested, the insiders would know that.
Right. Yeah.
Because you would have somebody saying, "Oh yeah, they called me, and I am not interested. That is a sinking ship. I want no part of it. The leadership's bad, whatever it might be." We would know that by now. I am very certain that is not the case.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of outside noise that has, I think, influenced other people's perception of the organization. I think there's a lot of people, especially outside of Chicago, people with a national voice,
anti-Davidson agenda,
that
which is a decent proportion of online Hawks fans.
Sure, that as well.
His godfather chimes in. Maybe Davidson is sleeping.
But that, you hear from, let's say it's Craig Button.
Yeah.
Right? Remember when he was just like, was speaking about Bedard, I wouldn't sign an extension in Chicago until they prove to me that they want to win. That's an outside perspective, and I think that is, and no disrespect to Craig Button and his work, he does a lot of deep diving and everything, and I say that he is pretty knowledgeable. But I think that you can't be so knowledgeable about the inner workings of 32 organizations. So when you get to that point, sometimes it is, well, this team's been pretty bad. They were supposed to be better this year. I don't know. If I was Bedard, I'd be frustrated. And that could be as deep as it went. So then you go out there and people say, they tag us and say, Craig Button said he wouldn't give Bedard an extension, right, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, I understand that, but that's,
Craig Button he's also an entertainer.
Right. There's that portion of the job as well.
I don't think of him as capital I insider like LeBrun or Friedman or Dreger or McKenzie.
I'm just saying
those guys are.
Yeah, I'm just saying as an example.
Yeah, I don't want to take away Craig Button's journalism chops because I do think he knows what he's doing. But when I think of those guys as the real newsmakers, where I think of Button is more of an opinionist.
Sure. But what I'm saying is, someone at that level makes that statement, and then it goes out to the world, and then it could influence how because people put credence into what people like him say, and then it seeps in, and it's maybe Chicago is really bad, and maybe they, So I would like to think that the people who are dug in on this team and the people who are doing their due diligence when looking at Chicago as a coaching destination, a free agent destination, they're doing it more than, like you said, just kind of taking that surface flyover of the organization where they're currently at, and looking at it, down the road. And that's the thing is, it's like with coaches and players, some of them, like we were talking about Mike Sullivan for a very long time being the guy that we would really want as the head coach. Their aspirations don't line up with what the Blackhawks are doing. The Blackhawks are on more of the long-term plan. Mm-hmm. Short-term gains, of course, are important, but it's more of a long-term plan. And some players and some coaches are not looking into, important games are on the horizon. They want important games now. That's why he's going to the Rangers. That's why some free agents this year will be great options for the Blackhawks, would be great fits with this team, but might look at it and be like, I'm 29. I'm 30. I don't have 2 seasons to waste of time to not be in the postseason. So players will look at that. So it comes down to how, the interest is gauged in not only what the Blackhawks are doing, but what the coach also wants to do. And as Kyle Davidson has said, he wants to have players and he wants to have a coach here because they want to be here, not because they're shrugging their shoulders and say, a job is a job. You want to have someone that is excited about being.
I also don't want a coach that just looks at the standings and decides if a place is. That means they're not doing their research.
Yeah,
that means they're not.
That's a dumb coach.
Yeah,
don't do that.
You don't want that guy. So, all right, we got a super chat on the other side. We're gonna hit the break zone first, though. Make sure you hit that like button for us. We got a lot of people watching, not a lot of people liking. So please hit that like button for us. Back in a moment on CHGO Blackhawks. And whatever the moment is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. If you're a new customer, you can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code CHGO365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. How about the hockey slate tonight? The Leafs are minus 210 at plus 1.5 on the spread. The total is 6 in that game. That's interesting. And Vegas plus 190 at minus 1.5 against Edmonton. Jump over to Bet365 and get those bets in. And with the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app. Use that code CHGO365 when you sign up. And when you do, and deposit $10 and place a bet for $5, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if it wins or loses. Those bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, in-app only.
And just like your favorite team needs a home court, home floor, Take 2. Just like your favorite team needs a home court, home field, or home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And that's where our friends at Empire Today can help you get that advantage. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus only on flooring every single day. They were the people in college that were always at the library, never going out, never going to parties. They weren't involved in extracurriculars. No. They were just at the library looking at the catalog of floors.
The flooring college.
And flooring, they went to flooring.university.com and they got certified, and they ended up at Empire because that's the university that produces the most first-round pick floorers in the history of the flooring drafts. And you know who's always undrafted in those? The people who work at the big box stores and work in quote-unquote flooring. No, they're just part-time floorers. They're the rock of floorers, part-time workers.
Okay.
Yeah. Current day rock, not prime rock.
Sure.
Anyways, with Empire Today, you're going to get that home floor advantage because Empire Today can bring the showroom directly to your home so you can see all the different samples of flooring that they have. They can see which one fits best in your space, with your furniture, with your colors on your walls or your wallpaper, or however you've decorated your home. You can get the floors that perfectly fit your space and actually perfectly fit it because you can get the precise measurements to make sure that you just got to measure twice, cut once, boom, you're done. And with Empire Today, you also get clear upfront pricing, and you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule your free in-home estimate today. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 discount when you use the promo code CHGO. That's right, a $350 discount with the code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details.
All right.
I have some more research
here
that I did.
Well, let's do super chat real quick from Kongs. Kong says, hello from Edmonton. Speaking of which, I saw a billboard in town the other day that said 0.4 seconds, go Knights go. Turns out a pub in Vegas bought the ad space. Okay.
Here in Chicago?
No, it was in Edmonton.
In Edmonton. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a pricey troll job.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Cool. Act like you've been there, Vegas. Come on, man.
Well, thanks for checking in from Edmonton.
Yeah, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it as always.
Do you guys not sing on the show?
No.
Do we not sing?
Yeah.
Sing
Sebastian wants the jingle, the Empire.
And I want a super chat. What's your point?
I guess I just want to sing.
For a $5 super chat.
The Empire jingle?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's get a super chat.
Yeah.
While we wait on that super chat, June 17th, 2022.
Okay.
CHGO Blackhawks podcast titled Luke Richardson Interviews for Head Coaching Job.
Okay.
June 24th, 2022. Luke Richardson hired as Chicago Blackhawks head coach. So it was 1 week between the time that we knew Richardson was interviewed and the time that he was hired as the head coach.
Okay.
And as I see all through June of 22 and May of 22, based on the titles of the podcasts we did, that's the only one that has a coach's name in it as far as head coach interview rumors go.
Yeah.
So I think, pretty tight-lipped about that.
I would say, what was the date again?
June 17th was the episode we did about Luke Richardson being interviewed, and I believe it was either June 24th or 22nd that
interesting
he was named. So it happened quickly between
and I'm wondering
interview
how
and
that
hire.
I mean, the other part of that too is, remember, Luke Richardson joined the Hawks from Montreal,
who was in the not that postseason.
But
no,
there is a giant contingent of hockey reporters in Montreal that were keeping an eye on that the whole time.
You would have thought, yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense as to that getting out. So,
but it was only a week,
and it was only a week, exactly.
It's not like, because think about, we've been talking about the Philly job and the Vancouver job and all that stuff for, since the season ended a month ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think to the fact that we don't know so many specifics is not a red flag. It's just that the other thing too that I sometimes think about is when you have organizations that you hear a lot about from the insiders.
Yeah.
Usually it's organizations that are not running properly. We know Vancouver's business a lot.
Too much.
And sometimes I feel like when leaks get out, it's not necessarily that, a source is used because, they're able to give out the information, have a good relationship, stuff like that. There are times and situations where people within organizations will leak things out to get at somebody in the organization, usually to get at their boss. So I think without hearing things about the Hawks, I think is honestly a good thing, because it probably means that Davidson is maybe said like, hey, we're keeping these things under wraps, blah, blah, blah. Don't talk to anybody. And the people he's working with respect that and have a good relationship enough to be like, you know what? I like my job. I like working here. I don't want to ruin it. So people who reach out to me, who I've given information before, or, that I could provide information to, I'm not gonna.
I can speak from experience that I have spoken to and gotten inside information from folks that have worked for both regimes, Bowman and Davidson. And the difference between Bowman and Davidson's time is astronomical.
Yeah.
It used to be pretty good scoops often to, I don't know if I've gotten a single one since Davidson's been in power in terms of specifics.
Right, yeah.
So they run a tight ship, and I do think that the idea that there is a little bit that there's some respect for Davidson too, and the guys want to, the people that work for him want to keep things quiet on his behalf. And we saw what happened before when news got out with what was going to be the Marc-Andre Fleury to Toronto trade. That sullied a relationship between Dubas and Davidson.
Yeah.
And I don't think Davidson wants any of that, be it for a trade, be it for a coach hire, whatever.
Especially since at that point he was just named the GM.
Yeah, right.
And he's still, even though he's one of the top half of the league, most tenured GMs now, this is still his first job. He's still a young guy. Like, he's still definitely got to, garner some respect around the league. And being a leaky ship doesn't do that.
No, it does not. And I'm trying to think of maybe it was around the draft last year. I remember Elliot Friedman was talking about on 32 Thoughts that Davidson has a good reputation among GMs. Like, they respect him, they like his professionalism, those sort of things. And I know there's going to be a certain percentage of people listening to us thinking we're carrying water for Kyle Davidson. We're just telling you what we're told. I'm telling you what other people are saying. That's all we can do. We don't have any more information. I'll just say this.
It's also how I read scenarios too.
I would think the biggest criticism people have of Davidson since he took over in 2022 in terms of transactions is taking Levshinov over Demidov. Right? I fail to find a trade that he clearly lost, or actually pretty clearly didn't win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guys he's found to come and fill in this roster, like you could talk about Bertuzzi and Teravainen not being great. End of the year, back of the hockey card, it's exactly what we thought we were getting from those guys.
Right, yeah.
You were able to move Taylor Hall for a draft pick. You were able to trade Seth Jones and only absorb $2.5 million of that deal, something no one thought could be done. Yet we still have this doubt about him because he didn't play the game. Is that it? Is that like this? Is that the reason?
I really don't know. I think it's because I think there's a section of the fan base that years ago and still hold on to the fact that Toews and Kane was traded. Toews wasn't,
Toews hasn't
given a lifetime contract and all that stuff. And, the fact that, DeBrincat was traded, all this stuff. I think there's a section that as soon as all that went down, it was Davidson's fault. And Davidson is anti Toews and Kane and all that stuff. And I think there, it's different the way people in front offices view how they need to operate in their job than the way fans view how they should operate in those jobs. And what's the saying? I don't know if it's one of your favorite ones, but if you act like a fan, you'll be sitting with one of them with them or something like that. So I think, Davidson has come in and his objective was to turn a page for the organization because they were in this spot where you were about to be what the Penguins are.
You were about to be the hockey Bulls.
You spin your wheels with not retreads, but hanging on to guys for too long and trying to, piecemeal things together where at best you're landing in the middle, which is the worst thing you could try and do. So to get back up, you got to go down in that scenario. So this is the part of the tank and rebuild where, the bell curve of things went down. I fully believe we are starting to get at that point where that curve goes back up. And we saw some of those things last year with the way that Frank Nazar played and, the way that a lot of these young guys have transitioned to professional hockey, whether it's at the AHL level or the NHL level, and those pieces that are going to be important for the rebuild once it's fully realized, they've started to make that transition and make that upturn. And you've seen young guys like Alex Vlasic be able to do that.
Yeah.
I just think to continue that trend, was where the importance of the head coaching hire comes in, and landing some more immediate impact win now players via trades or free agency or whatever. That's super important for Davidson this summer to keep it trending up in that direction.
Yeah, a couple things too. Someone in the chat said that their jury is still out on the DeBrincat and Hagel trades. Those trades were made to give the Hawks the best opportunity to get Connor Bedard, which they did. Now, had they not, that'd be a disaster, but they got him.
Right.
But if you keep DeBrincat and Hagel, you are slightly better right now, but you're still not a playoff team, and you don't have Connor Bedard in your system.
Right.
And you don't have Artem Levchinov in your system because you're probably not picking second last year, and you're not going to have Michael Misa or James Higgins or Porter Martone or Anton Frundell or whoever you're going to pick at 3 this year. So you have to look at those deals in the context of what it has allowed the Hawks to do since then. And it's not just Bedard. It's Bedard and the top picks they drafted after him.
Right.
So, and the additional picks they acquired as well. So that's how you have to look at it. The other thing too I'll say about the Kane and Toews decision, and however you feel about them, whether you felt Patrick Kane should play to the Hawks till he's 40, and I understand that, the fact that a first-time at the time 34-year-old general manager had the nads to say, thank you, franchise icons, we're ready to move on, He very easily could have said, boy, it's an honor to be an original 6 GM. I've been part of this organization for a decade, and I love Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. And damn it, they'll be here as long as they want to be. Yay, throw a parade, give them big contracts. Boom. And then you're right in the middle, and you are the NHL Bulls with no hope of getting better, and you're fine. Maybe you tickle the playoffs, but guess what? They had Toews and Kane and DeBrincat and Strome and all these guys and didn't win a thing. They didn't make the playoffs. They were a bad team. It was beyond time to move on. Kyle Davidson had the stones to do it. A lot of GMs would not. And I think whether or not you like it or not, you have to respect the fact that a guy in his position on a franchise that big with that little experience as a GM had the wherewithal and the courage to say, thanks, but no thanks. It's time to turn the page for this organization. And so far, it seems to be working. All right, we'll be back with more on CHGO Blackhawks. We are right there at 100 likes. Please hit that like button for us. We'll talk to you in 2 minutes.
And if you are in the market for a new vehicle, why not check out our friends at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. New vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and this is your chance to score a great deal during the Employee Pricing Plus sales event. Head on over to Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chryslers, Dodges, Jeeps, and Ramses vehicles. And right now, lease the new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe for only $245 a month for 24 months. That's $245 a month. Man. Plus, you can shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you know you won't overpay for the vehicle that you need. With Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons, no hidden fees, ever the price you see, and here is the price you pay. Check out our partner today to shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories, find the right vehicle for you, and drive home happy. The team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram is the only one that we recommend. Don't miss out on the Employee Pricing Plus sales event for huge savings on the Jeep Grand Cherokee. For more information, visit Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
Nice. And tonight, NFL schedule coming out.
Ooh, big day.
Our Bears show's going to be live at 7, reacting to it. And you're going to want to jump on Game Time and find those tickets you want. It is a life hack. You want those amazing seats and experiences for a great price? Game Time makes scoring NFL tickets faster and easier. With exclusive discounts, you'll find great seats for as low as $100. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. Went to the Cubs game the other night.
Oh, what was that?
For some tickets. Oh, my goodness. What a night at Wrigley. Just perfect. I took probably 15 pictures of the sunset. We were in the...
was that the walk-off game?
No, it was the game before. It was right field, down the line, kind of even with the foul pole. Mm-hmm. And so just we were looking west, right at the sunset. Just absolutely a perfect night at Wrigley. Nice. Game Time came through as always. And kind of sitting over there, you're not really sure, all right, what's that view? Like, it's kind of far off the field. So I was able to use that view from your seat finder, and these were perfect. Got 5 tickets for me and my buddies. It was a great night.
Nice.
Game Time comes through as always. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Sean?
Game time.
Nice. Well done.
Real quick, people in the chat are wondering about Hagen's. Young Dangle God saying, is Hagen's lack of size enough to skip him at 3?
No.
If we are going to be best available at 3, you choose Hagen's, as it seems pretty widely agreed upon that he is the third best. You guys recorded a mini pod, so that answer should be out soon.
That'll be out Saturday.
Yeah.
But yes,
quick synopsis.
We'll take him at 3.
Yeah. If James Hagens is there,
sure.
Being 5'11" and 175 pounds didn't stop Patrick Kane from being really good.
Yeah, I remember third grade for me.
So, I'm not scared about James Hagens at 18 years old being that big. I was not fully grown at 18 years old. I was 5'8", 125 pounds, playing defensive end for my high school football team because we had 13 warm bodies on the roster. Just
gotta play, baby.
Just getting my knees chopped every game. But by the time I was 19 and 20, under a proper training program in college, 5'9", 140 of rock solid muscle. So you keep growing as you get bigger.
Yep. As
you get older. So James Hagens at 18 is not fully matured physically. I'm very confident he will be a legitimate 6 foot by the time it's all said and done for him physically. And as you know, 6 foot is the magic height for hockey players.
That's it. You're automatically great.
A boom or a bust. Yeah.
Can't be 5'11". That inch.
Yeah.
That's going to kill you. All right. A little bit of news came out today. Lukas Reichel suffered an injury at the World Championships. His tournament is over. He was doing really well for Team Germany. But Scott Powers with the report says Lukas Reichel's injury at the Worlds isn't thought to be too serious. He should still have plenty of offseason to train after recovering from it. So, first thought, worried about Holly, but she's here.
Yeah.
And she's okay. The only fear I have is how much of a dent does this put in his edge work training, the board work training he was doing.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't feel like too much, but anytime they're just saying right away, oh yeah, he's done with the tournament, it gets your antenna up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think being at that tournament is it's a weird tournament. It happens at the same time as the Stanley Cup playoffs, so the best of the best are not available. Guys decline going, as we saw Connor Bedard do.
Yeah.
So I think, it's not the Olympics. It's not, one of the other, what's the word I'm looking for? Prominent international tournaments like a, World Cup of Hockey or a Four Nations face-off,
right.
where we saw guys play injured to be there. And it, in the case of Charlie McAvoy, playing through an injury at that tournament ruined his season and really messed with him physically and mentally. So it's probably easier to bow out of that kind of tournament and say, like, you know what, I'm at the end of my season. I just want to, I got a ankle twist or a, whatever it is. And you know what, I'm going to shut it down. I need to get into the off-season mode, get myself healthy, because I don't get paid to be on Team Germany for the World Championships. I get paid to be on the Blackhawks. And if I'm not on the Blackhawks and not producing, I will lose out on that opportunity to make that kind of money. So,
and let's be honest, Germany's probably not meddling.
Well, I mean, they're off to a good start. And it's a bummer because, I know hasn't played like the best teams in the tournament yet, but 4 points in 3 games, like, that's a good boost of confidence for Reichel off of the season he had. I was going to be, really interested because he got off to a good start with Germany playing a prominent role. And I would have liked to have seen how he, finished what would be his, year of hockey, on the international stage. So it's a bummer that he isn't able to complete the tournament. But yeah, I mean, as long as he's able to be healthy, ready to go, through the summer into training camp, and can, get some of that work that he said he was going to get into this offseason, get some of that done. That's the most important thing for him.
Yeah. Steven, our buddy from our last takeover, says, any idea why Lukas was playing so well in the tournament? I think a big part of it was opportunity. He was getting top 6 minutes. So that's part of it. And I think if I have one kind of complaint about, there's a lot of complaints about last season, let's be honest, but one of the things that kind of puzzled me throughout the year, it was Richardson and Sorensen, was why not give him a look on the top 6 for a little bit? I know that him and Pat Maroon had chemistry on and off the ice, and I think they wanted to see how he handled playing center, and they wanted to get the 200-foot game going for Lukas Reichel. But you think at some point, with injuries or with just slumps or whatever it may be, you would have given him an extended look with Bedard or without or with Nazar, whatever it might be, and it just never really came for him. There were moments or a game or two, but as soon as he would sort of have a bad game, it was right back to the bottom line, or he was scratched or whatever it might be.
Or he forgot his phone charger.
Yeah, and when I see that with a player, it tells me, or at least it leads me to believe, that there's probably some other frustrations from the coaching staff about them. And you have to, I think it's good you have to earn your opportunities, right? And if Reichel is not doing the little things they want him to do, be attentive in meetings or show up on time or whatever it might be, it just, when it feels like a guy is being held to a different standard, there's probably a reason for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, for sure. I think there's guys that if they weren't holding him to a different standard and just letting him do whatever, it probably means that they wouldn't care about what he was doing, and then he'd eventually just be getting scratched and sent down to Rockford. But there's an investment in him getting to that next level in the NHL. So you have to make guys work for what they earn, and that's a statement that is been there for the Blackhawks since Davidson has taken over and put the emphasis on players earning their opportunities. And a lot of these young guys are getting opportunities because that's the direction the organization has gone. So while he is a first-round pick, he's not a Davidson first-round pick, but he was a first-round pick. He's a guy that there is investment in becoming a more impactful player. Just because you are that first-round pick doesn't mean you're going to just get everything. You have to earn it, and certain guys work for it, and certain guys, they need to go that extra mile to continue to earn those opportunities because of how they play and how they hold themselves, as professionals. So it's all part of a learning process, and hopefully going into next season, he's on an expiring deal at the start of next season. So it's going to be an important year for him.
Can we just take a quick detour? Celestial Design, this is one of the people we're talking about, chimed in the chat, said, is Kyle Davidson still the GM? Then expect more disappointments. Celestial, I would like you to list the disappointments that you have from Kyle Davidson. We'll let you do it. And if they're reasonable, we'll share them on the show. Because I am genuinely looking for, aside from he moved on from the Caner, something aside from that as something that makes you think that Kyle Davidson can't do this job well. What is the evidence? That's what I want to know. So Celestial, Lord Hosa, asking you the same thing. What's your reasoning? Please be specific in your reasoning. Don't say, hey, he's never played the game.
Over under.
He's actually too busy asking AI right now to put together all of the reasons he should hate Kyle.
Right.
Davidson.
I'm genuinely curious.
Grok, why does Kyle Davidson suck?
I'm very curious as to the specific failures of Kyle Davidson that you can say flat out, this was a proven bad move. That's what I want to know. So the floor is yours, Celestial Design.
While we wait, let's talk about the IceHogs, because we've neglected them for 2 days in a row.
Real quick, as a novice hockey watcher, Connor Bedard's still under 20?
He will be 20 19. In July.
Okay, yeah. So why are we complaining?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because he didn't put up 100 points.
He's a loser.
Yeah. Oh,
trade him to Ottawa.
Giggity says $100 are going to say he picked Levchinov over Demidov.
Sure. The Rockford IceHogs.
Yes.
Speaking of Artem Levchinov. Their season came to a sad end Sunday night in overtime against the Milwaukee Admirals in the what technically is the first round of the Calder Cup playoffs. Fourth straight season falling in the first round of the Calder Cup playoffs, but 3 out of the last 4 years they've won the play-in round. They had a 2-0 series lead up on Milwaukee and failed to close it out in Rockford twice in games 3 and 4. Force overtime in game 5 in Milwaukee, but an early delay of game penalty. I think it was Zach Sanford put the puck over the boards early in overtime. Milwaukee capitalizes and ends the IceHogs season. Super disappointing for that group, a young group that we talk about those guys getting that postseason experience, being able to be in those high situation games, high pressure games. They were battling it out through the end of the regular season to lock in to a playoff spot, and then you get the upset win, quote unquote, over the Wolves to get into the Calder Cup playoffs, and then you're up on the division winner 2-0. You fail to close it out. It's really a rough way to end, but I think as a totality, the way that the IceHogs season ended, the way that you went through the coaching change with Anders Sorensen getting promoted up to the NHL, Mark Eaton going from the front office to behind the bench, and the always influx roster situation of being an AHL team with guys going up and down. We saw Ethan Dalmasho go up to the NHL back and forth. Colton Dock did the same. Landon Slaggert started the year in Rockford, got up to Chicago and never went back down. Frank Nazar did the same thing. So it was, a lot of shifting, but I think that they did a good job of making sure that they had the right kinds of more experienced players, veteran players in there. Guys like Brett Seney, Zach Sanford, Joey Anderson is a great AHL pro down there. They brought in Gary Mayhew. Like, the way the season went, I think it's a little underwhelming, but from what we saw from a lot of the young guys was what you would want to see. It's very hard to look up and down the roster of guys that played this year with the IceHogs, a majority of their time with the IceHogs, as far as the young guys go, and say that there was many disappointments. The one, which Scott Powers pointed out on The Athletic earlier this week, that I would agree with is Paul Ludwinski. Again, his first year pro, but being a top 40 pick, I think you want to see more involvement and a little bit more production in his first year. But again, like Sean is saying with Bedard, like, these guys are just 20 and 21 years old, first year's pro, like, they'll take some time. So hard to be disappointed with much of what the IceHogs did this year. So hopefully next year it's going to be, again, another young team. Get to the playoffs again. See what happens.
Celestial seems to be chickening out and not answering, but weird. At least some of the responses, one of them does include Paul Ludwinski. Kyle Kennedy saying, I got into an argument with someone yesterday, and their biggest problem was Paul not being a slam dunk prospect.
Okay. Sure.
Paul Ludwinski.
Straws being grasped at.
Also, I believe he was one of the picks that the Blackhawks got in the Alex DeBrincat trade, as we were mentioning the DeBrincat trade earlier. That was DeBrincat to Ottawa for Ottawa's first and second round picks in the 2022 draft, which, I believe that was Ludwinski's, and a third in the 2024 draft. Those picks ended up being Kevin Korchinski, Paul Ludwinski, and AJ Spellacy. So,
feel good about 2 out of the 3 of those right now?
At least, yeah.
Yes.
And it's still way early to make a definitive claim on any of those 3. Korchinski, Ludwinski, and Spellacy.
No, you can't.
Only 2 have played professionally.
The other one that people said was that he's botched the coaching hires, that King and Richardson and Sorensen were failures. Well, King was interim for Jeremy Colliton, who he fired
almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
So there was no one, didn't want to hire someone mid-stride, wanted to give it the offseason to find out. Luke Richardson, had a tough start to this year with expectations. And he very easily could have said, well, we're going to let Luke figure things out as things got worse and worse. And as Connor Bedard struggled more and more. And no, he said, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing. It's time to move on. Interim coach Sorensen, season's already lost. So we're going to begin the search in the offseason. And Sorensen, the wins and losses didn't get significantly better. But if you watch the games, you know the overall efforts were better. Bedard got better. Nazar thrived. Levchinov looked good in a short amount of time. He wasn't afraid to play young players. I don't think that Sorensen is the guy long term, but he did a fine job in accomplishing what needed to be accomplished in sort of saving the culture, which was not great when Luke Richardson was let go. Mm-hmm. He got it kind of back up and got the young players that matter really on the trajectory they need to be on.
Yeah.
This
12 days, by the way, between Davidson taking over as interim GM and Jeremy Colton being fired.
This will really be his second coaching hire.
Brian Magnuson saying the team was so bad that you can't blame it all on coaching.
Of course not. I was watching Ray Ferraro and Darren Dreger today because they were talking about, they did like an emergency pod on the coach search, and I'm always looking for, does anyone have anything on the Blackhawks search? No? Cool. But they basically said, because it looks like Luke is going to join Tocchet in Philly. That's a coaching staff I don't want to fight.
No.
And I think Ray Ferraro said they armed Luke Richardson with a butter knife for a war or something like that. And kind of alluded to that he got a raw deal. I don't agree with that because I do think we saw some regression from some really important players. And we also saw some frustration from veterans under Luke as well. Mm-hmm. Say what you want about Taylor Hall, but Taylor Hall is a pro and was frustrated with the way things were going with Luke and the communication. I think you started feeling the vibes in the room were not great, and then something had to change.
And you read between the lines a little bit of what Nick Foligno said post Richardson being fired and talking about the way that the team was going to be playing and just kind of a different energy within the group of, how they were going to utilize their skills and schematically how things would be changing. So, yeah, even from a guy who was teammates with Luke Richardson way back when, at the end of his career and the beginning of Foligno's career in Ottawa, and a guy who he revered as not only like a former teammate, player, coach relationship, but also just a personal friend relationship, to come out and say the way we were playing wasn't the most fun. I don't think we were getting the most out of ourselves, and a change was necessary. Then you go out and you get a response out of the team from it. So, I to that point, Luke Richardson was being hired for a team that was, I'm sure in the interview process, Kyle Davidson was just like, just so you know, we are going into a rebuild.
Yeah.
You know that good players are going to be gone, and you know that, we're not going to evaluate you immediately upon wins and losses. I think he knew the situation he was going into. So to be given a raw, I think he knew the deal, and I think a lot of people would have known the deal. But I think at the time when it was like, hey, can we start turning a corner a little bit? We didn't get to that point.
Right. Reven says, if you say we can't be disappointed because the stage the team is currently in, then when the F can we be disappointed? Well, I'm not saying you can't be disappointed. I just think if you look at it from from beyond the record, everything seems to be going the way you want it to go. Yes, losing is disappointing. There's no doubt about it.
Right. But
this rebuild started in 2022. Losing is a quintessential part of a rebuild. It's kind of by design. Mm-hmm. So when I'm frustrated with the Hawks, I look at how's Bedard doing? How's Nazar doing? Levchinov, Korchinski, all these guys who, when we believe the team is going to be competitive again, are going to be major parts of this thing. How are they doing? How is the team in Rockford doing? How are some of the prospects that were not, because someone in the chat said, drafting the high draft picks is easy. That's correct. But Sam Renzel was not a high draft pick. That was a reach in many people's minds. And all of a sudden,
it was a project pick.
Yes, and all of a sudden he's looking like a potential top pair guy.
He's ahead of schedule.
Right? AJ Spellicy almost makes the team last year because he's so damn good in training camp in the preseason.
Yeah.
Like so even if when you go further down the line, you look at Sasha Boisvert, had a great season with North Dakota. How many Blackhawks prospects were Hobie Baker nominees?
5.
Like it just, the evidence is there that this is working. Now, is every one of these guys going to pan out to be an NHL star? No, but I just don't know when you're looking at the big picture where the specific disappointment is aside from the standings.
Trying to parse through the comments, it seems to be with the current coaching search. Is Carl that big of a miss? Who should they get? Like
Carl would have been a huge miss if he went to Anaheim or Seattle,
anywhere else,
or if he chose another NHL team over you. I won't even say that, because if he chose the Rangers or Boston, okay, he feels it's a closer chance to win.
It was a team in a
better team, fine.
Situation.
But if he chose Seattle or Philly or Anaheim over Chicago, that'd be a failure. But he went back to Denver. He leveraged the NHL opportunity for a contract extension, a crap ton of money, tons of security for him and his family.
Yeah.
That was kind of the expectation with Carl all along. The thought was the Hawks can just offer him enough money to make it a deal too big for him to refuse. Denver probably bridged that gap for him, and everybody, the Hawks aren't happy, and we're not happy, but David Carl is happy.
Right.
So he gets to be the king of Denver, which sounds pretty great. And he gets what he wants. So that's, sure, it's a failure in that they didn't get the guy you wanted, but he also didn't go anywhere else. Again, this is the context we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't
put a
gun to his head and say, you're the Blackhawks coach, let's go.
Right. For Carl to have left the University of Denver, it would have had to have been for the stars align, the stars and the planets aligning perfectly for him to get an NHL job where it was like, here's a ton of security, here's a ton of money, and here's, the expectations for you are, we're not going to hold you to whatever, and, maybe it's a team that's ready to contend right away. Who knows exactly what his parameters were? Honestly, it kind of feels like after the fact, if Jared Bednar had been fired, then maybe David Carl becomes the coach of the Avalanche, because it's right there in Colorado, right there in Denver. So he wouldn't have had to move his family at all. So, I mean, it's, again, if that's Davidson's big miss, that's one of the smaller things that you can hold against him.
Hypothetical.
Yes.
If Colorado fired Bednar and Carl was interested in an NHL job, which of those two would you have preferred for the Hawks job?
Jared Bednar.
Me too.
Yeah. Because
he has done exactly in Colorado what we're looking to happen in Chicago. Take a team that is, go look, those Avalanche teams were ass.
Yeah.
Ass. Some of the worst teams I've seen in my lifetime. And he took them from that to Cup champion.
Mm-hmm.
So
with
help.
With help,
yes.
Yeah. You had to have top players come in. You had McKinnon, Landeskog on that team. Nikushkin,
right.
Cale Makar
drafted
was starting his career.
Yeah.
You had to have those. You had to have those players, but they had to go from the bottom and get back up.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, though. Like that's how it's done. So again, just I know we do 5 shows a week, so we have to zoom out. I know it's harder for fans to. This is not the majority of your life is covering the Blackhawks, but zoom out of it. Look at the individuals. How is the individual stuff going? And that's how you should kind of gauge how you feel. I'm not going to tell you to not be disappointed when the team loses. There were plenty of nights when you, me, and Greg, or you and me, or whoever it might have been that night, were livid after a game. I can't forget that Utah game.
Yeah.
Where they gave up 93 effing shot attempts to the Utah Hockey Club.
And it wasn't only that they gave up 93 shot attempts, is that they themselves only had like 27.
Yes, they were awful.
They were run out of the building and somehow only lost 2-1.
Yes. So,
And I think it's fair to say that a lot of people's frustration that they voice, either whether it's, if they pop up once a month in our chat or they go on social media or whatever, I think a lot of it is that, a lot of fans are not every day 24/7 consuming information, going outside of the Blackhawks world to consume information. I think there's a large portion of fans that turn on their TV when they get home from work, want to watch a Hawks game, and go, "What's this crap? This team sucks."
Right.
And then they turn the TV off
if they can find the game.
If they get the game,
there's frustrating. Yes.
And they go like, "Wow, this team stinks. Why am I? What's fire everybody?" And because when they turn the TV off, that's where their Blackhawks world stops.
Right.
Until the next time they turn it on and the game is on. So I think and that's completely fine. There are people, but I think it's a lot of the frustration I think comes from a portion of people who are just like, what is in front of my face is not pleasing.
Right.
So something's got to be a problem.
Like my wife says it to me all the time.
Oh, I was gonna say, geez, Jay.
Yeah. She says all the time, what's in front of my face is not pleasing.
Your wife is a lot nicer than that.
This is what you have signed up for. And I'm sorry.
All right. That's your life. I'll leave that there.
Yes. All right. We're back tomorrow. Tomorrow is a big show.
Do not miss tomorrow's show.
Do not miss tomorrow's show. We are expecting significant information about the Blackhawks Centennial.
It's going to be a major show.
Yes. Do not miss tomorrow's show.
Tomorrow at 2 p.m.
It is at 2
o'clock Central
2
time.
tomorrow. 2 tomorrow.
Don't miss it.
2, tomorrow.
Yes.
Don't miss tomorrow's show. We'll talk to you then on a CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.